Ladies and gentlemen, this is Wager Detective here, June 17th, 2026, and we're going to get into this Mets versus Reds game here today, going down at around 12 o'clock, okay, 12:40, and before we get into that, be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Throw in the headset, listen to this report. The reports went 3 out of 4 yesterday, called the Nationals, called the over in the Nationals game, which was 8.5. That both hit. And then I called the Red Sox, that lost, but I did call the under in that game. So 3 out of 4, 75% for Wager Detective yesterday on the calls. Let's get into this cap right here. Again, be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We're looking at this Mets. Mets are minus 134 on the money line. The Reds are coming back at plus 114 per FanDuel. The over-under is set at 9, minus 115 to the over, minus 105 to the under. Now, if we look at the Mets, they are 3-8 their last 11 versus the Reds, 2 over, 5 under, and 4 push. They're scoring 2.72 runs per game to 5.54 for the Reds over the last 11 meetings, and the Reds have scored 5+ 7 times in the last 11 meetings with the Mets. So not looking good there. Now, if we look at what the Mets have done last 11 at Cincinnati, they're 4-7, 3 over, 6 under, 2 push. They're scoring exactly 3 runs per game over their last 11 at Cincinnati. The Reds are scoring 5 runs per game exactly over their last 11 meetings versus the Mets at Great American Ballpark. So you look at the Mets, again, not really something that you're looking at and saying, it's a good team. They're 4-6 in their last 10. The Mets are 14-23 in road games this year, and they're 5-12 versus the National League Central. So all those stats right there leading towards maybe the Mets looking to possibly get swept here today in Cincinnati. So not good against the Mets last 11, not good against the Mets last 11 at Cincinnati. And let's get into this cap. If we look at what they've done in road day games this year, the Mets are 6-9. So they're 14-23 on the road this year, and they're marginally better in road day games where they're 6-9. Okay, so they're 6-9 in road day games this year. The Mets are 2 over and 13 under that 9 that's set today. In their 15 road day games this year, the Mets are scoring 2.86 runs per game to 3.4 for their opponent. That comes into 6.26 runs per game average. And in 15 road day games this year, the Mets have scored 2 or less 9 times. So if you look at what they're doing in their 15 road day games this year, they're scoring 2.86 runs per game. If you look at what they've done last 11 versus the Reds, they're scoring 2.72. Very similar numbers there, right? I think when we look at the pitching matchup, you could see some runs scored in this game today. Now, if we look at the Mets' last 9 overall, they are 4-5, 4 over, 2 under, 3 push. In their last 9, they're scoring 3.66 runs per game, but they're giving up 5.44 runs per game. That's a 33-49 run scored disadvantage for them. And that 3.66 to 5.44 over their last 9, that's a minus 1.78 runs per game average. So they're losing by 1.78 between their wins and losses over their last 9 games. So not really good. And in their last 9 games, the Mets opponents have scored 5+ 5 times. So over 50% of the time. And then, like we said, the Mets have scored 5+ 7 times in the last 11 meetings versus the Mets. So not looking good. Now, in this situation, this will be a road series to road series with no rest before the All-Star break. And in that situation, the Mets this year are 1-3. So road series to road series with no rest, the Mets this year are 1-3. Now, if we go back to last year, the Mets are 3-7 in their last 10 road series to road series with no rest before the All-Star break. Okay? They're scoring 3.3 runs per game to 4.3 for their opponents. That comes out to 7.6 runs per game average. So that's a situational trend here for this report. And then if we look at what the Mets have done in a position where they're looking to be swept on the road, in they're 0-4 this year The Mets are 0-4 this year when they're in a position on the road to be swept. So they lose the first two of a series on the road, and in that third game, they're 0-4 in positions to avoid the sweep this year. If we go back to last year, as long as we isolate it to before the All-Star break, that gets even worse. They're 1-6 in their last 7. 2 over, 4 under, 1 push. And in their last 7 games where they're on the road trying to avoid being swept, they're scoring only 1.71 runs per game to 5.85 for their opponents. That's a 12-41 run score disadvantage for the Mets. So not really good there. Now, if we get to who's on the mound, we're looking at Nolan McLean, and in his last 5 outings, the Mets are 2-3. In McLean's last 5 outings, he has a 6.38 ERA, 1.54 WHIP, and he's giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 over his last 5 outings. Now, in that last 5 outings, he did face Cincinnati. They lost. The Mets lost 2-7. He had 3 1/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 7 earned runs, and he gave up 2 home runs against Cincinnati. So McLean not pitching good. The Mets are not performing behind him. Again, Mets are 2-3 in his last 5 outings, and he's got a 6.38 ERA, 1.54 WHIP, and 1.5 home runs per 9. Now, if we look at what else do we got here about this gentleman? Okay, so he's going to be on 4 days rest. McLean is, and this year he is 1-3. The Mets are 1-3 when he pitches on 4 days rest. He has a 3.52 ERA, 1.04 WHIP, and 0.78 home runs per 9. So he's pitching better on 4 days rest, but as far as the ERA, the WHIP, and the home runs per 9, but the result is not getting it done, whether it's the bullpen coming in and not giving him support to get that win. And in 14 starts this year for McLean, the Mets are 5-9. He does have a 1.14 WHIP and a 4.01 ERA this year. So if you look at all those factors, right now I'm looking at the Reds. I mean, I know that minus 136 just does not look right. Now, do you know something that I don't know? Because, guys, yesterday I'm going to really dig into Major League Baseball, bro. I don't believe in coincidences, and we're not going to get into that, but I'm going to save that for another day. How Toronto beat Boston, not only 6-1, but in the fashion in which it happened. I'm telling you, I have some concerns about Major League Baseball that I don't want to unravel in this cap right here. But if we're looking at all that, I do believe that it's not looking good for the Mets. Again, there's not really many bright spots for the Mets. Other than when we get into the lineup, Bo Bichette, kid's fantastic. Soto, they got guys that can wake up at any given time, but if you look at that part of the cap and you listen back to it, guys, it's not a really good sign for the Mets. Now let's get into the Reds part of this cap. Now the Reds, they're playing decent baseball. They're 4-6 over their last 10. They are 35, only 2 games below 500 on the year. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They're 19-18 at home. So they're 1 game above 500 on the road, where the Mets are 14-23 on the road. So they're 9 games below 500 on the road, and the Reds are 1 game above 500 at home. So we look at that, and then we look at one-run games. The Reds are 11-8 this year in one-run games, whereas we said with the Mets they are 7-12 in one-run games. So that's definitely something that we're going to keep in mind there, and we're going to hold up. We're going to hold up right here. We're going to hold up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and we're gonna hold up. We're gonna hold up before we get going. Okay, thank you. Before we go going, and we're gonna look at the Reds. So now in home day games this year, the Reds are 9-7. You gotta. There's always a breeze coming through wherever I walk, wherever I am. There's always traffic, even when I'm trying to look for quiet places in the casino. There's just traffic. They're enamored by what I'm doing. Okay, now let's get back into this cap. The Reds, they're 9-7 in home day games this year, 8 over, 7 under, 1 push. They're scoring 4.31 runs per game and giving up 4.06 to their opponents. In their 16 home day games this year, they scored 5+ 7 times. So They're scoring 5+ 7 times in 16 home day games this year. And we talked about the Mets in road day games this year. They're scoring 2.86. So that 4.31 for the Reds to 2.86 as far as runs scored is another sign to lean towards the Reds at that juicy plus money. And again, the Mets in road day games this year, in 15 road day games, they've scored 2 or less 9 times. They're not hitting the ball well. And as we mentioned, for the Mets, they are 1-6 in their last 7 on the road where they're looking to be swept, where they've lost the first 2, and they're looking to avoid the sweep. In that position, last 7, dating back to last year, they're only scoring 1.71 runs per game. So Reds scoring in home day games. They're 2 games above 500 in home day games. We said the Mets are 6-9, 3 games below 500. Now, if we look at what the Reds have done in their last 9, they are 4-5 in their last 9. Their last 9, they're scoring 4.22 runs per game, and they're giving up 3.66. As we said, the Mets in their last 9 are scoring 3.66 and giving up 5.44. So essentially, the Reds are giving up almost 2 runs a game less over their last 9 compared to the Mets' 5.44 that they're giving up. So another reason to look towards the Reds. I mean, how else could we not be looking towards the Reds at this point? Now, it does get a little sketchy here because when the Reds are in a position to sweep, this year they're at home, they're 0-2. They lost 3-8 and they lost 0-3. Now, I don't think that's a reflection of how this team is hitting right now and what they're doing. So I do believe that the Reds are going to score today. And as we said, McClain in his last 5 outings does have a 6.38 ERA. He's given up 1.5 home runs per 9, and his whip is 1.54 over his last 5. So I do believe that they'll be in a better position, but you can't ignore the fact that the Reds are 2-5 in their last 7, dating back to last year, when they're in a position to sweep at home. And 2-5, not good, but again, the Mets in that same position to get swept on the road. They're 1-6 in their last 7. So in those games in the last 7, where they're looking to sweep at home, the Mets are only scoring 2.85 runs per game, and they're giving up 4.71. But again, in that same split for the Mets, where they're looking to avoid the sweep, they're scoring 1.71, but giving up 5.85. So both those metrics, both leading back to the Reds in the advantage department. Now, if we look at who's going to be on the mound, it's going to be Nick Lodolo, and they are 2-3 in their last 5 outings. When he starts, 2-3, and he's lost his last 2. So I like positions like that. We got a pitcher that just lost, and listen, the last time that McClain was out, he won against the Braves. So I like kind of a pitcher that not only lost 1 but lost 2. Not lost as far as decision, but as far as the result, they lost the game. So. And those losses, in the Reds' losses, where Lodolo starts in his last 5 outings, the losses came against Arizona, St. Louis, and Philadelphia. Guys, all those teams are playoff-bound or playoff potential teams. All better lineups, considered better than the Mets. And when the ironic part here is when the Mets played the Reds back on May 25th, both these pitchers started against each other. And the Reds won that game 7-2. So there's a little concern there that McClain has already lost to this team. But as we get into this cap, you'll see why even furthermore, Wager Detective is leaning towards the Reds. Now, in his last 5 outings, Lodolo has a 4.09 ERA. So he's got 2-run better ERA than McClain over his last 5. He's got a 1.40 whip, and he's given up 1.57 home runs per 9. So there could be traffic on the bases today. Both teams have guys that can steal bases. Both guys been throwing some walks. Something to keep in mind when we look at that. I mean, McClain has 16 walks over his last 24 innings pitched, over his last 5 outings. And if we look at Lodolo's got 11 walks over 28 2/3. So even there, it's an advantage for the Reds. Now, And again, I do expect some home runs to fly out of the park today. Now, if we look at what Lodolo has done on 4 days rest this year, not good. They are 0-2 this year, the Reds, when he pitches on 4 days rest. But those losses came against Philadelphia and Washington. He lost 7-8 and 4-5. So right there, you lost one-run games, right? We already said the Reds are considerably better in one-run games. So I expect progression to the regression. If it does come down close, it's a one-run game. I like the Reds, they're at home. But in Lodolo's 2 starts on 4 days rest this year, he's got a 7.5 ERA and a 1.77 whip. Not good. And the Reds are only 2-5 in his starts this year. But here's a bright spot for Lodolo and the Reds. In 3 game starts versus the Mets, the team is 3-0. Outscoring the Mets 16-6 in those starts for Lodolo when he pitches against the Mets. And it gets even better. In 3 game starts versus the Mets in his career, 17 2/3, 13 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 4 walks with 22 Ks. That comes out to a 1.53 ERA, a 0.96 whip, and he's striking out 11.25 batters per 9 in 3 starts versus the Mets, and he just saw them. So, and by the way, I forgot to mention this too. The Mets are 5-12 versus left-handed pitching this year. Just all these. I mean, listen. I don't know why that line is the way it is. Like it's just like I can't see a way or a world in which I bet the Mets. And here's another aspect of this cap: the Mets are going to be going from series to series with no rest. All right, they're going to be starting another series after this one. The Mets, the Reds are going to have a day off tomorrow. So there's no need to hold back on bullpen if I have to get Lodolo out of there. He's not looking sharp early. I can go through a bullpen because I know I'm going to have a day off tomorrow, whereas the Mets are going to be rolling right after this game, right to the next city, and they're going to be getting the next series started, whereas the Reds will have a day off. So I think the less pressure of that is a reason to believe that furthermore, the Reds have an advantage here. And just like I said, the head-to-head and everything else. Now, and the way that Lodolo, his career has been against when he pitches against the Mets. Now, if we look at who's doing what, as far as batting averages, the Reds got 2 guys in the top 90 in Major League Baseball, Stewart and Steer, coming in at number 82 and number 90 in baseball and batting averages. The Mets have nobody there. If we look at home runs, the Mets do got 1 guy in the top 25, that's Soto, coming in at number 23 with 15 home runs. But if you look at the Red side, they got 4 guys in the top 80 in home runs. You got Stewart at number 30 with 14. You got Blade coming in at number 38 with 13. You got Steer coming in at number 53 with 11 home runs. And you got Lowe coming in with 9. All those guys will be in the lineup today, right? You look at guys like Blade, 2 for 6, 4 RBIs and a home run in the series with 3 walks and only a strikeout. You know, Dunn, 2 for 8, and he's batting .250 in June. The bright spot for, I mean, you look at who's going to be possibly the leadoff hitter for the Mets. He's 1 for 10 in the series. Bichette's been hitting real good, 5 for 10 in this series. He's batting .362 in the month of June. Soto, 1 for 6 in this series, 3 walks, 3 Ks, batting .240 in June. Simeon, 1 for 6 in this series, 2 walks, 2 Ks. Vientos is 2 for 4 in this series. So, you know, you look at it and you look all around. RBIs, you got Sal Stewart, number 15 in baseball with 47. You got Blade at number 73 in baseball with 34. But the Mets do got a couple RBI guys. You got Bichette and Soto, respectively, with 41 and 34 RBIs. And then stolen bases, both these guys got guys that can steal. But the guy that's ranked higher is McLean, who's going to be batting in that 9 hole. Number 27th in baseball with 11 steals. And then if you look at Stewart, number 27 as well with 11 steals. And then, guys, I mean, all this, man, Wager Detective is going to call it now. If I'm going to lean aside, I got to take the plus money here. I think Revenge is on the mind of the Mets. I don't think that they're going to score as many runs as they did on McLean, maybe as they did the first time. But I do believe all metrics are kind of leaning for me to say that I do believe that this game does go under. I think this is an under 9. I seen a lot in my cap that was landing on that number 9, which is concerning because if it gets to 9 and you get that last at bat. But listen, at the end of the day, I think the stronger play here, as far as a lean, is the Reds. I believe that they should be favored here, if anything. And I don't know what the books could possibly know that I'm not seeing that is making the Mets a minus 134. Now I know that both these pitchers. But if you look at who's doing what and who's hitting the ball and who this, that, and the other, I still got to come back to the Reds. So that's going to be my call here. Wager Detective calling the Reds plus 114. And the over-under, I would stay away from. I could see a couple home runs going out today. That's the only pause for concern with me saying the under, because there's a lot of numbers leaning towards the under, but there's a lot that are right in the middle there landing on the number 9. So, you know what? For what it's worth, I'll make that call and say this game goes. I can't do it. I got to still say under because all the metrics, just the Mets aren't hitting the ball. I'm calling that. So that's the call here. Wager Detective calling the Cincinnati Reds on the money line and under 9. Okay. Hopefully you could get it to go up to 9.5, and if you do, definitely jump on that. So that's the call here. Wager Detective, June 17, 2026, calling the Cincinnati Reds money line plus 114, and he's calling the under 9 in this game. So be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and remember, more than anything else, Wager Detective loves all his fans. I'll talk to you soon.